Okay, I welcome you all with love. And today is parsha Tazria and Metzora. And so we start with a prayer merging the heavens and earth, because you can't really understand these unless we have that bigger understanding. Hashem Yikud Kedusha Brihu Ushinate Bi'lu Imu Layad Shem Yuki Bavavke B'Yudah Shalom B'Shem Kuzrael Kolam Amen. So I'm going to really talk about them as one teaching. And the key is about our choice to choose life or death. And Tazria means seed. It's important because the seed of our action is our consciousness. And so we can choose by our words, because this is really talking primarily about the power of our words, and in a sense actions, because words become actions, whether we're creating purity or impurity. That's the key understanding. Okay? And so we move with that understanding. So how is it that our words create impurity? Is because they're creating negativity. They're creating what we'll call evilness. So all this is kind of got to see, again, the big picture of what we're really focusing on. So let's use the word reality for a second and understand our perception of reality creates a reality. If we see darkness in all things, then that's a reality. If we see everything as an emanation of the divine, that too is reality. So we use the word pure, impure, tahara, pure. It's seeing the divine, Hashem, in all things. The impure, in essence, is a different vision, and we act on that way. Now, there's a process that the Baal Shem Tov talks about, which is really a submission, which is humility. And you'll understand as they explain these things, humility, and then kind of you retreat and contemplate what you've done that's out of balance. And then we kind of, in a sense, have spiritual joy. So this process where people, in what we do, also affects our environment. So it says, okay, you may have a rash, or you may have a special thing they may call leprosy on your skin. It gets recognized, then you're 7 days in isolation to contemplate it, to change, to look at your thought forms and shift that thought form energy and awareness. And then hopefully you're healed, and the mark, Zarat, disappears, and then there's rejoicing, happiness. Pretty much the process of our lives, if we understand that. If we understand our words have power to heal or to hurt. Because this is what we're talking about here. So that's the overall process. Now at the end of the redemption, there's a little ceremony, and again it has a lot of meaning. So you have two birds. One is offering, two doves, and the birds represent slander, okay, and misspeaking, okay, I'll put it that way. But slander is probably the best way we can talk about it. So one is killed, the other one is set free. Second thing is, in the ceremony, it has wood from very tall trees. That has to do with what they would call haughtiness or ego. So that gets burned up in the process. And then you have hyssop, which is very low to the ground. So humility is needed as part of the healing. So there's the healing ceremony where we return to humility from haughtiness. We turn again from slander to knowing the power of our words to create goodness in the world. And then there's simcha, or spiritual joy, that comes from it. So that's the process that these two parshas are really talking about. That's extremely important in understanding. So it's a teaching then on a higher level that our actions affect everything. First on your skin, then we're talking about your clothes, and then your house. And when we kind of get that, and one of the things that happens was when Israel went into the Promised Land, people had hidden their gold in the walls of the houses. They knew they were coming for 40 years. And often the stain on the house would say where the gold was hidden. So the point is, gold is the spiritual growth behind our actions, the potential spiritual growth that shows up. So now we have a paradigm that our words create and affect the outer reality, either being elevation, saying God knows all things, or bringing a stain on our body, the leprosy, on our clothes, and on our homes, on our environment, in that sense. So it's a very powerful statement of our words, our thoughts. Seed creates reality. Now they also talk about something else, as they talk about the male and female energy. That's the symbol of the woman, the seed in the woman. We're talking about the heavens and earth, okay? So that the heavens evoke the earth energy, and the earth energy evokes the heavens. So the woman, when she's inspired, again symbolic, from above, gives forth to a male. When the woman is inspired from below, it gives forth to a female. The symbolism is very important because the woman symbolizes Israel, and ultimately the return to Hashem, and then a little step further, the salvation of not just Israel, but the whole world. So the woman represents the active principle that's going on. The Messiah energy is the male being born, and traditionally it's seen the Messiah is rejected. And we talk about that. People living this holy lifestyle is often seen as a threat to people. People don't like that. You're eating live food. Yeah, right. I'm eating live food. I'm not eating death. I'm not eating animal flesh. Yes, that's true. Well, people want to hold on to their attachment to flesh food and death. Okay, they're not going to like you because you're reminding them of what they could be. You see. So it's said that the Messiah appears to be Zaharat. What does that mean? Well, they see that as a stain, the holiness as a stain. People don't see the Messiah. So, but in this tradition, the Messiah is, in a sense, exiled temporarily as people look at it. Sitting with the lepers, what's the difference? Well, the lepers take their bandages off one bandage at a time. They take all the bandages off, and then they add one bandage at a time and repair. But the Messiah, how we distinguish, is that for every time there's a bandage off, we add one back on, which means we're ready to receive the grace of God at all times. So we're looking at multiple levels of metaphors and understandings. Bottom line is the power of our words to create holiness or to create darkness and slander. And so what we're given is a recipe Again, the recipe is taking a look, noticing that that's an issue. The idea of slander is an issue because it brings darkness into the community. The idea of isolation, so you can reflect on it and then change your ways, see your negative thought forms, clear them, and then come back. And that's the spiritual separation. So there's another teaching that comes from God: they shall not die as a result of their sins. So what does that teaching mean? Is that we are given here a way to correct our actions and our thoughts so that we can be elevated to the divine. And so we can create the space for the messianic understanding that not only uplifts Israel, but the whole world. So that's the message in this, even though it's talking about all these kind of physical things. I mean, there is a message about disease, that all disease comes from a spiritual imbalance, which is partly true. Disease comes from physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual levels, and part of the healing is including that spiritual awareness. But the truth is, if you step into a situation that's contaminated, we have to examine that action. So it may be exposure to radiation or something like that. Well, you happen to walk into that field where they created that. That's not a spiritual cause of disease per se. Spiritually, we can say if you're not attuned, okay, you wouldn't have stepped in it. But we're looking at a worldwide situation where some diseases come on a physical, emotional, mental level as well as spiritual. Generally speaking, we think spiritual, that affects mental, affects emotional, and then affects physical. But it's just not always that way. So I kind of bring that up. Our guidance is how do we avoid that? So we take a diet, for example. We go to live foods, and okay, we're not eating death, we're creating purity, we're not creating tuma, which is impurity, but tahara, which is purity. So we have the power, and that really comes down to us, to create seed, Tazria, that then manifests this way or another. So the idea is that we want to create a good seed that brings birth of something very great. And then they talk about circumcision here. Well, circumcision is day 8. What does that mean? It is eternal. 7 is worldly cycle, but in day 8 we're talking about infinity, eternalness. So it's all about moving back to an eternal way of living, watching our words, so we don't create slander and negativity, and therefore can elevate not only ourselves, but our immediate society and the whole world. So that's why the message is they shall not die as a result of their sins. We are given the solution. We're given the remedy in these 2 parshas. So may everybody be blessed that we take the remedy that we're given to heart, and we choose to live in the will of tahara, which is purity, uplifting ourselves, Israel, and the whole world. Amen. And just look at this, we're giving a little bit of energy and a chance to meditate for a few minutes. And now we're going to go to meditation for 10 minutes just to integrate the message and the energies. Yo. Okay, everybody, Shabbat Shalom.